kind of inclined to just jump into the JFK one.
Yeah.
I think it's because I've just read the House of the Kennedys, and I do like reading about Kennedy a lot. I know a bit about the assassination, but recently with the new administration, they say they've released some documents. The documents don't seem to be that getting that much attention, and nothing that really is bothering people too much. But then I saw this interview with Dr. Don Curtis, who was the must have been a very young at the time person who saw JFK come into the hospital, and he was saying that there was clearly 3 or 4 bullets and coming from different angles. I know you know the movie with the Oliver Stone movie. I want to know actually before I revisit that movie. I remember it being a good movie. I remember Kevin Costner being brilliant in it. But I'm just wondering, where does it stand now in terms of these new findings?
Okay, there are two issues with JFK, the movie. If you enjoyed the film, great. It is a well-made piece of fiction. It's not intended to be a documentary, although it's dealing with real facts. And the general the general view now is the film does not stand up to inspection because of the way that it has, to a certain degree, misinterpreted some evidence or changed the balance of what went on. Now, the focus of the film is Kevin Costner as Jim Garrison, and you can see him as a heroic figure. Okay, now it's questionable whether Jim Garrison was that pivotal, because remember his character only comes in after the event, okay, and tries to prosecute on that basis. So the rest of it, it can be seen as manipulating the historical events to make Garrison central to what goes on. That's the first thing.
Mhm.
Secondly, I don't think Oliver Stone ever claimed, all right, that this was a documentary. And he went back and made another movie, I think only about 4 years ago, um, actually doing a more documentary orientated appraisal of what went on. So I would say watch that documentary first and then reappraise what happened. So I think it's JFK through the looking glass.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. But what about how it relates to the new findings and what's coming out? I'm not sure if you've been seeing on social media.
I think that there comes a point that although there was a big announcement that all the material be released, most of it had already been declassified. And I saw one estimate that said there's only about 1% that's new,
Mm.
and none of it is really categorical.
Right.
There's no sort of Area 51 revelations.
Right, and I think that's what people are wondering. I have another personal theory that it is actually something that reflects bad on JFK, and therefore they don't want it to hurt the family. That could be another reason. But I'm trying to relate the film because as I remember it, it was kind of saying there was probably more than one shooter, right? That the one shooter theory was under some scrutiny in that film.
There are a lot of people who question whether one bullet could have made that
But
number.
it's the new findings is saying that's
Yeah,
not right. It's they're now saying that there was probably 2 or 3 shooters because there's bullets coming at different angles. The magic bullet theory by Dr. Curtis, he said that it wasn't possible. But wasn't that what Oliver Stone was trying to say?
well, you look at the reinterpretations of this, and the shooter on the grassy knoll or a triangulated shooting as assassination is quite widespread and has been there for not long after what went on.
But
Um,
did he focus on the grassy knoll thing? Was that the Oliver Stone movie? Did he kind of go down that line?
Not really to any great degree. I think the most important part of that film, in some respects, is the courtroom scene where Kevin Costner's Jim Carrison went back over the 8 or 16 millimeter footage
Mhm.
of the actual shooting
Mhm.
and talked about the head going backwards and forwards
Mhm.
as the impacts went in.
Yeah,
Now, in some respects, putting that, which is actual footage,
makes it a documentary almost.
it is um,
So
evidence.
there's someone who's so politically charged as Oliver Stone. I don't agree that he would sit down, write JFK without having his own beliefs. His and from what I'm reading here, just quickly got it up, is that
Mhm.
it argues against the fact that there was one lone shooter and that it was a coordinated, and that is probably the big thing we need to sort out. And from the recent findings, I think that's now been suggested. I think people don't really care as much as they thought it would because it's so long ago. It's like finding out, oh, your government's corrupt. It's like, wow, great, thank you. Tell me something I don't know. It's like, but I think we're now finding out that maybe he was right to tell that story and that it was more accurate than maybe some people thought.
Um, Oliver Stone has made a number of very personal films based on events in American history. And I think as a movie, JFK is great. And it is his view of what went on. Okay. It is
Yeah,
not.
I agree, and he's unashamedly just saying this is what I think. Here's the movie, but he seems to be on pretty having he probably knows what he's talking about because he's almost hitting the nail on the head. I think.
I,
Uh,
I,
so
I
maybe
think
it's worth revisiting. I wouldn't want to watch it again. Like I'm not really into watching movies which are giving me false information. So I find it hard to really go back to that film unless like now we're finding out that actually he was actually right about a lot of stuff.
or at least the direction of his arguments, because I
Yeah,
would take it
agree.
back even further than that. Lyndon Johnson received a report, I think in 1967, in the aftermath of the Kennedy shootings.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the conclusions was that America pursuing regime change by assassination as part of its covert actions in the 1950s and the 1960s may have fostered the belief that if America can do it, then America can also suffer it.
Yeah.
So that that
Absolutely. Just do it to your own people. Yeah. So he
right.
was de-escalating Vietnam, dismantling the CIA, looking at nuclear disarmament, trying to seek peace with Cuba and the USSR, threatened powerful interests. Yeah, there was a lot of reasons, and I think there was mafia involvement as well.
And you can
Helping
well
him in helping him from the book, the Patterson book. Do you know that one, The House of Kennedys? It suggests that the only reason they were able to get into the White House was because of mafia influence, and then they started doing stuff against the mafia, and that could be another one. So there's so many things. I mean, but the thing is, Lee Harvey Oswald was definitely one of the shooters. I think the idea that he had nothing to do with it is crazy because he was, yeah, he certainly was one of them. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting story. I just wonder if that film is still valid and still worth a watch.
it's definitely worth a watch,
Yeah.
and it's what you categorize as being valid. And
Mm.
I have to say, with the shooting of the President of the United States in 1963, there has been so much written on relatively flimsy evidence
Mm.
or assumptions or making real conspiracy theories, that I would see this, and this is taking a little bit from the time, that this is to a certain degree, now the stuff of Arthurian legends. I know that's riffing on the Camelot view.
Oh, it is, yes. Yeah.
Okay, but I would actually say the best movie on the assassination is Jackie. the movie with Natalie
I,
Portman.
I I definitely want to rewatch that. I watched that at cinema when it came out, and I'm going to rewatch it. I mean, she's a fascinating person, and what she did by keeping the dress on and everything, but also the kind of just the way she reacts to everything. She doesn't just crumble and cry or anything. She's like acting like a victim. She's very strong in the face of it all, and yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, now I know that's one removed. So, will we ever know the truth? And it depends on what we consider the truth to be. Official findings don't seem to carry as much weight as they used to. New evidence suggests that if this was done, it's probably done by more than one person. And if you want to follow up on this and really get a handle on Oliver Stone's work, the American Historical Association um, have something that's sort of free to look at on the internet, and it gives you their author's view on the film in historical perspective. So that's a good one to follow up, and I'll
Well, I mean,
send
yeah.
you a link on that one because it's giving you that bridge between public history and what might actually have happened.
What's that called again?
All right, it's called Oliver Stone's JFK in Historical Perspective, and I will send you the link so you can
Thank you.
add it to this when you edit it together. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Oh, just the last one on that is that the there was a conspiracy about the black umbrella guy. My personal opinion, for what it's worth, is that he was everything to do with it. Because why would you don't just go out with the black umbrella and then happen to be in exactly the spot where the bullets kill him. And he got off a bit lightly, that guy. They sort of let him go after they questioned him or something. And it's like, wait a minute. That would have been a perfect if you've got a range on a sniper rifle or something, you need someone to sort of show you the distance. That just seemed like too good to be true. There's a guy with a black umbrella, an oversized umbrella, and he had it out because it was sunny. I mean, I'm not buying that.
Yeah, I have to say
What
that
happened to that guy? What
Paris,
happened to that umbrella as well? I don't know. Who knows?
no idea, but I just think that the mythos has overtaken the event.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to facts though, and I think if Oliver Stone, I'm sure is a guy that you do listen to. Not you don't have to agree with everything he says, but he does his research. He's not, he's I don't know. He's also a very good storyteller. So where does the stories end and where does the research come in? It's hard to tell with his movies, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the point being that he has made it a watchable and engaging film.
Also, yeah, one of the best monologues ever on screen, I think, Kevin Costner. I think he does is like a 7, 8 minute monologue, and it's pretty insane. So
But just to give you a parallel to that, in The Darkest Hour, there is a fictionalized account of Gary Oldman's Winston Churchill.
mm.
And of course, Gary Oldman was Lee Harvey Oswald in JFK,
Oh, yeah.
right? Yeah, right. Traveling on the tube and talking to London commuters. That probably never happened. And
Not with Winston Churchill, I don't.
it's a way of getting.
Those things, no, I understand. I understand when you use certain vehicles to tell stories, and I think viewers know that. But there's a difference between saying if the film is about Lee Harvey Oswald not being the only shooter, that's taking a position, and you're learning that throughout the film. Okay, something bigger might have gone on, and if it did, it could have been something like this. Well, rather than just showing something for effect, which is okay, this romantic meal with his wife probably never happened, or you need to color a movie in some way, and you need to show that maybe he was trying to get down with the local public. So let's show a scene of him chatting to them in the tube. So I get that, but I think sophisticated viewers, should be able to tell the difference between an actual making up a big lie or actually just sort of trying to tell sort of a metaphorical story, for another reason.
You've mentioned organized crime in America, the mafia. There are, conspiracy theories about whether it's the CIA.
Yeah.
Disgruntled Cuban refugees for the Bay of Pigs fiasco not being backed up with military further military support.
Mm. Which
We're
was
in
a
the
disaster, right?
Yeah, and it's the middle of the and that was one of the things that led to Kennedy not trusting uncorroborated advice.
Right, because I mean, that was a big failure on his part. I mean, people like to think of him as a successful president, and he wasn't really because he did it. There's a lot of failures.
Well, let's just take that back one level because you're quite right. Bay of Pigs was a disaster,
Mm.
but Bay of Pigs was a CIA operation.
Mhm.
And the failing was that the American military didn't do due diligence on the plan when advising the president whether to go ahead or not. And there was an assumption because it wasn't Kennedy's plan. He had respect for Eisenhower. Remember, he's the lieutenant as opposed to the supreme commander of Allied forces in the Second World War. And there was a little bit of him coming into office and not wishing to be seen to be challenging, someone with such stature as a military commander over a military issue. This was the CIA starting out saying, well, we can raise a rebellion, and not realizing that actually what the CIA was expecting was that America would then step up and use their military. And that's where it collapsed because JFK was not prepared to commit regular forces
Mm.
to something that was going so badly wrong.
Wow. That's really interesting. Yeah, I think that we could go off on that route. But coming back to the movie, thanks so much. You've definitely got really good points to say on that.